There was probably about 12 people at the most down at Queen Hythe Dock, because that's where I did my digging, and just along there on Brooks Wharf and Bull Wharf, and there were only about, I'd say, a dozen people, and I got to know them, and I had a pal, and we used to work together. One person would be down the hole, and the other person would be at the top checking the spoil as it came out, and then we'd swap round again, and I'd go down the hole, and that's how we worked. My name's Graham duHeaume. I was a mudlark back in the 1970s when it was quite different down there as it is today. So, and I'm pleased to be part of the mudlark world now. I think it was about 1970 I wrote to the Port of London Authority asking if I could go on the river, and they said yes, you can do that as long as you abide by the rule. The main rule was if you dig a hole you've got to fill it in, which we did. I mean, the ground rules were quite different in those days. And that was when I started. And the reason I became a mudlark was I remember listening to the radio, or wireless it was in those days in about 1950, listening to Children's Hour. And they had a chap talking to Uncle Mac, and he was talking about how he used to walk along the Thames foreshore on the North Bank, picking up coins and buckles and buttons and things like that. And I wasn't particularly interested in the history in those days, but that seemed to be put on the back shelf of my mind, and it didn't come out till about 15 years later. And that's why I started mudlarking. So it all goes back to 1952, I think it was. We had 4 hours to work, but we had to keep an eye on the water coming in, and we got to know where it should be. That was the time we had to come out and fill it all in, because the tide, as you know now, comes in pretty fast. So that's the way we worked. I did my mudlarking from about 1970 to 1986, and then I suppose I got a bit fed up with it, and I went on to boot sales and things like that. And it wasn't until the start of the internet that I went on, I somehow got in touch with a mudlark, I suppose, and I saw one of Monica's comments there, and I commented, and that's how I got to know Monica, and that's how I became part of this huge family of mudlarks that we have now. Right, you say favourite finds. I don't have favourites. They're all my favourites. But this one, I suppose, is a super example of a knife from about 1500. And if you see at the back, it's got a horseshoe finial. Now have a look at the blade. You see a V there?
Yes.
That's the cutler's marks, or mark. And I suppose about 95% of my knives have all got cutler's marks. And that's quite unique. And when I donated it to the cutlers, they were absolutely knocked out by the whole collection, because they'd never seen anything like about it from London Knives. And also, I made a list of the cutler's marks, and 70 or 80 are new to archaeology. They've never been seen before. This knife here is a beautiful little knife. It's a Tudor knife. That's a magic name in the world of mudlarks. Everybody seems to be interested in Tudor. Henry VIII.
Yes.
I mean, and going to that key.
Look at that key.
That is as good as the day it went in, early Tudor. So who was on the throne when this? It was Henry VIII probably, maybe Henry VII. This is the question everybody asks me. Yeah, who used it? Where was the house? What was it for? But with all the stuff you find in the Thames and Moridity, there's who, why, when and where and how, and you never know all of them. You'd be very lucky if you did. So a lot of it's guessworks. I've got these keys, and these are 17th century keys, lovely ones. And I thought, how nice to. And when I was out with my son and we were in the Henfield cricket ground, and I found this bit of old bit of wood, and I thought that would make a nice key tree. So it's just an ordinary old bit of wood with medieval nails stuck in it, and it just with the keys hanging there.
Yeah, perfect. Pipes.
Yes, these are, I mean, you're the clay pipe queen, aren't you?
One of them, I think. I've been overtaken by Jamanda Speedwell, though.
Really?
Oh, yeah, she's got some incredible clay pipes.
Gosh, yes. And these are musket balls. And this one here, this is a little brooch, which I found in Queen Hythe Dock. And that wasn't very far down, so I guess it was probably about 1800. But it's made of brass, but it's quite crudely made, but it's nice in its own way. And I call it the doxy brooch. Now, for those who don't know what doxies are, they were prostitutes, they were minxes, they were courtesans, they were wenches that had sort of horrible low-grade jobs, and obviously they couldn't afford proper jewellery. So this, I think, this could have come from one of these doxies, and it could have come from the Bartholomew Fair, which was started in the Thames in London in about 1400, I think, and it went right the way through to about 1860 when it was closed by the government then, because it got unruly. There were fights, there were drunkenness and prostitutes and all that business, so they closed it down. So I think this might have come from Bartholomew Fair. It's a story, it might not be true, but it might be. And this wonderful, wonderful spoon, again, early Tudor. It's made of pewter, and it's got this patina on it, but it's as good as the day it went in. And again, who used it? How did it get into the river? A lot of suggestions are a lot of it fell in and went in at the Great Fire of London when everybody was mad to get across to the south side, but it was safer over there, and shoveling all the stuff into the boats, and I think quite a lot of it probably fell over the side. So that's one reason how it could have got in there. I mean, you do find just handles of spoons, and you think, well, that's why it's in the Thames, but complete ones, yeah, you just don't know. Ah, here's an interesting thing, which I will show you. I always take this out to the people in the displays, and I say, do you know what that is?
I do not know what that is.
You don't know what it is, and most people don't know, but they give good ideas of, is it to chop food or something like that? No, it isn't. It's called a fire steel. And you wear it on your hand, you've got a flint here, and you bash the flint and got a spark. And that was it for starting fires. A fire steel. And this is one which I'll show you. This is a folding knife. You see, it's a folding knife of about 1780, something like
Gosh,
that.
it still folds, because
It's
you've done a
still
lot of
yes.
work on it, haven't you?
Yeah, but I showed it to a family last time, and they looked. There's initials there, HP. See? See it?
Yeah.
And the little girl said, "I know who owns that." So I said, "Well, who is it?" She says, "Harry Potter."
And why not?
And why not? No. Got coins here. There's a forgery, Cromwellian forgery. You can see the plating has come off. That's why it's in the river. But all manner of things. Pins. People collect pins by the thousand, but they don't find many that size.
That is a long pin.
It is, yeah.
I mean, did you used to find a lot of things then? Did you go down to the foreshore and, oh, there's a Tudor knife?
Yeah, the thing is, in those days, I mean, as opposed to these days where you're looking over quite a big area of foreshore and you're picking stuff up, we were in a hole which was probably down 6 feet down, and we would check the sides and we'd find things in there. But I think you probably find more articles today than we did, but the things we found were absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. As most mudlarks will agree, that starting a collection of one particular thing only happens when you start to look at the stuff you've got and you find you've got probably more of one thing than the other. And I seem to have had more knives than the other, and that led me to sort of collecting them. But I donated about just 875 pieces, and I can't remember where about 800 of them came from. I mean, they came from the river, and I got them from swapping with people, and that's how I built up the collection. Jason Sandy asked me what I was going to do with the collection, having let the cutlers show it in the display they had. And I said, well, I had thought of the Museum of London, but having worked in the museum, I know exactly what happened. It'll go into their archives and you'll never see it again. But with the cutlers, it's there for everybody to see in the main hall in a beautiful, beautiful cabinet. The Worshipful Company of Cutlers was initiated back in the, I think it's 1400s, and it was to do with having cutler's marks on the blades, just so you knew who made them. And they vary. They have a huge variation of different things. Some you don't even know what they mean. But during the later part, in the 17th century, the cutlers were required to stamp a London dagger on the blade, and that guaranteed quality. So, and of course we know from the 17th century that we know who made them, or roughly who made them. And for example, if there was a thing like a pair of tongs on there, that's quite often used, and if a cutler used that mark and he died, then it would probably go to his wife or his son, and they would use it, and then maybe the son gave up or he died, and then that mark would be available to be used again, and somebody else new would buy it. So sometimes you get a knife with that mark on, and you can't say exactly who made it, but you can say that it's one of perhaps 2 or 3 people that could have made it. Right, this is a copy of the knives I found from the Thames.
So you found all these knives?
Some of them, I swapped some of them. Yeah, I must have done it. I don't remember. I don't remember. But they are wonderful. And it goes on and on. And then it goes, these are all the blades, but you can see they've all got marks on there. It's and then there's the 17th century ones. I think that's a maidenhead with a London dagger on it. Do you see it?
Oh yes, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a particular cutler's mark.
Yes, it is. It certainly is. Oh, I've got some better ones here. See, another one with the London dagger, a crown, and a letter L. These are the cutler's marks.
Oh, these are all the actual marks.
These are the actual marks. I'm going to do a book on this actually. But look at them. They're in wonderful condition. Look at those 2 toads. And I've got that knife.
Toads.
I've got that knife. It's in here. That one. It's no wonder the Cutler's Company were absolutely staggered by it, because they look at an early medieval key. Some nice ones here, there really are. So there's about 800 of these. So that's my knife collection, and it's in the Cutler's Hall.
So anybody can go and see that?
Yes, they can. It's in a beautiful mahogany glass case, and it's there for everybody to see. And what we're doing now is I sort of check out the things that the Mudlarks find today, where they post them up on Facebook. And if I see a knife, I ask them whether we can use that for the Queen Hythe catalogue, which is this. So the Queen Hythe catalogue is all the knives in London that are found. We just call it Queen Hythe, but there's some of them are just a little way down from Queen Hythe. So, and last week, just the beginning of this year, I had them printed all out in the book I've got here, and sent them to the Cutlers. And at the moment, the collection's gone up from 890 to 1,010 pieces. Now that is just, phenomenal. I'm not boasting about it, but it's with the help from you Mudlarks. It really is, because you find them and you're always very happy to let us photograph them and put them in the collection. So yeah.
Isn't that fabulous that they're all now together though in that
collection? It is, yeah. But that's Monica's.
Oh yes, I recognise that one. Oh, and there's one of
yours.
Mine.
Yeah, there.
Oh, I'm very proud that it's...
Yes. Here, look, Nicola White. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
See?
Yes.
And at the end, look at that sword.
Oh my goodness.
A Walloon sword. That was found by Brian Pitkin, who's since died. That one I restored back in the 70s. That's a Quillian dagger, another one. And that was another of my friends who let me use it, let me use the pictures. So it's an ongoing thing. Every year there's going to be one of these to add to the collection.
Recently you were awarded something, weren't you? Because I came along and watched. Can you
What
just
was
say
that
a few
then?
words about that?
Yeah, that was the Freedom of the City of London. It happened really because I was doing a display at St Paul's and this chap came in and he worked for the Worshipful Company of Bricklayers and Tilers. And I told him that I had the Worshipful Company of Cutlers, I had the freedom of that. And he said, have you got the City of London? I said, oh, well, I don't know anything about it. He said, well, you can do, because if you belong to the Cutlers Company, you can get it. So I wrote to the Cutlers Company and I said, I'd like to have, and if you think I'm worth it, would you back me? And they backed me straight away. So I have the freedom of the City of London. It's a nice thing to have.
Yes, and I can't think of anyone who deserves it.
Oh, thank you, yes.
Graham, can you tell me where we're going, please?
To have my Freedom of the City of London award.
So welcome to the Chamberlain's Court. My name's Theo, I'm the beadle today. This is our waiting room, so do make yourself completely comfortable here. It's completely yours, as is Barbara, by the way. So we make full use of her today. She's been waiting for you all day. When it's time for your ceremony, we're just going to go across the hallway to the court there, so we can take all our bags and coats with us, and I can show you where you can put them. In terms of photographs, we can't take any during the ceremony, but plenty of time at the end. But in here, please take as many as you wish. And then Graham, once we're in the court, I'll ask you to join me at the front of the court. I'll place you front and centre, so you'll be facing myself and the clerk will be behind me on the bench. Maybe if we can ask your son to stand to your left, if that's okay. And then all guests, if you could then stand either side, maybe try and balance the room up, so to speak, but come right to the front so you can all feel part of the ceremony today as well. So once we're all in position, the clerk will begin by bowing to you. If you could bow back to the clerk. She'll do the same to me and I'll also bow to the clerk. I'll then introduce you to the court, and then the clerk will invite you to approach the bench for the reading of the Declaration of a Freeman. So I'll speak to the clerk, so she will read the declaration for you. She will ask you to state your name initially. She will then read the declaration, and then she will ask you to say, I so declare. And that's all you have to do. Okay? Once we finish the reading, we will then ask you to sign the declaration book, and I'll guide you through that. And then I'll ask you to step to your right and to continue listening to the words of the clerk. So it all happens around the clerk's bench, because it is a court of law, although we don't use it as such. And I will do lots of guiding once we're in there, so don't worry. And then the clerk will conclude by extending to you the right hand of fellowship and greet you as a citizen and cutler of London. And that's our cue to burst into cheers and applause. And don't hold back. Don't hold back at all, because it's a great occasion. So it's quite a short ceremony, but very old and ancient. But then the clerk will speak to yourself and your guests briefly about the history of the freeman and famous historical freeman and celebrity freeman whose footsteps you'll be following in today. But of course the most important thing, obviously the most important thing, are the privileges of being a freeman. But they don't all involve sheep, Graham, so I don't know if that upsets you or not. We have swords, we have silk rope, we have city police, the list is endless. I'll let the clerk explain some of those to you once we're in there. Okay. So as soon as the clerk's ready, I'll come in and call for you. I believe we have a bit of a presentation, Graham.
Graham, we have something to present to you as well. It's a little present.
Thank you. Oh, look at that. Oh, look at that.
So I think you need to be wearing that to
Yeah, I agree.
ceremony.
Wow, look at that. So yeah, I've got the freedom of the Cutlers. I've got the freedom of the Antique Metalware Society as well. So yeah, it's nice.
And you've actually now arranged an exhibition which is going to take place at Henfield Hall tomorrow.
Yes,
How do you feel about that?
Well, it's pretty good really, because the whole thing came when we were doing the St Paul's display last year, and one of the people from Henfield came up just by chance and came in and saw the stuff, and I think he was a bit knocked out by the quality of it. So I said to him, well, would you like to have one down at Henfield? And he said, yeah, I think we do, and that's how it started. We didn't have to push it really, but it's going to be a grand do tomorrow. It really is. I don't know how many people, but I think there's going to be quite a lot coming. So, and a lot of them had never heard of mudlarks and didn't know what they were. They never even heard the term. And so they're quite sort of surprised that it went back to Georgian times and perhaps even earlier. So that's how it all sort of fitted in, really.
So of my latest favourite find, and it is a William III crown, which is possibly the best coin I think I've personally ever found. It's an Octavius crown. It's one of the first, and it is dated 1696, so definitely something different, and probably one of the largest coins I think I've ever found. And this is a George II. You see that?
George II?
Yep, George II Maundy 2p. So how and it ended up in the Thames is anyone's guess.
Hello, my name is Kasia. You can find me on Instagram, Kasia Mudlark. And I've been mudlarking for 3.5 years, and I'm still obsessed. I love it. It's my favorite hobby. What inspires me about mudlarking is the unknown. I go to the foreshore, even in a bad mood, and then I start searching, forgetting about the world, and that's what keeps me coming back.
Beautiful buckle.
Buckle.
So these are all parts of buckles?
Parts of the buckles, that's right. Recently I found a hammer coin.
Oh, nice hammered coin.
And then it's from 1300s. And that was the first person who picked it up after so many years. Worked
maybe used for buttons?
For buttons, for beads.
Yeah, buttons and beads.
Oh, maybe not many people have seen it on Instagram or social media, but that is a pattern.
Oh, a pattern. So that used to go on the bottom of a shoe like that to keep people's sort of shoes out of the mud and the puddles and all the disgusting stuff that was on the streets. And you've got part of a cauldron.
Part of the cauldron, and there's a handle. Here is a bit of leg. And lovely friend Gail gave me this piece of pottery with a triangle shape. It looks like a bit of like a play button, but actually is used to put pegs in, and pegs would be as part of the saga, and saga it has been used for firing.
Yeah, so that's
plates,
in the kiln.
right?
That's right. Yeah, so that is that basically, isn't it? Yeah. So they would have held like the plates on top of these little bits. Yeah.
It's a very pleasure to be here, and it's been a fantastic day. It was a fabulous day. Constant stream of people, and I had just one break.
But you must be exhausted.
It's quite tiring, but worth it. And
yeah, so it's I just glad I've done it. I'm glad I've done this, and it's a pleasant disease to have, and it's nice to have all these mudlarks as friends, and I really appreciate it. I really do. And this is my world. Actually, you're looking at my world here. All the nice bits and pieces. Some gentleman fancies a lady, and she fancies him, and they get along, and he bends it into this S shape, and that is a love token.
And how did that end up in the Thames then?
Well, she probably saw this bloke with another girl on his arm.
And she
just threw it in the river. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
And there's another one here. That is a Georgian. Can you see it under the light?
Yeah.
That's a Georgian second, I think it is.
Oh, but it's been
engraved. It's been faced off and made shiny, and then chaps engraved Mary Coombs, 1729.
Mary Coombs.
Whoever Mary Coombs is, yeah. Who was Mary Coombs? We'll never
So that's
know.
like a love token then?
It is, yeah.
That is just, I would love to find something like that.
The other interesting thing is this is a knife handle.
That's a knife handle?
Yeah, and there's a chap there holding a lady, and if you turn it over, he's got his arm round her waist.
Very romantic.
It is indeed, and he's got a sword, and that's probably about 1500, made of brass, around that period. It's amazing. I mean, when I was down on the river in the 1970s, if somebody told me we'd be exhibiting in the Cutlers, I wouldn't have believed them. The same with St Paul's. But it's the internet that's done it. And it's just amazing that we've got this popularity and people know about us. But I always think it's a big family, but everybody I know who does this is so friendly and so willing to impart information. Truly wonderful.